Terence Crawford says it's a wrap. It's a Rizzy. It's over. And nothing is over. Just give you something to drink. He said he ain't fighting Errol Spence. That fight will never happen. Might as well stop asking. And we gonna talk about it. I'm about that action. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. You know what to do. Hit the bell icon. Now, yesterday, Terence Crawford was in the crowd. Virgil Ortiz stopped his stablemate and friend, Maurice Hooker. It was a fun fight. Definitely a fun fight to watch. I think both showed vulnerabilities, both Hooker as well as Virgil Ortiz. I think they hurt each other. Virgil Ortiz, you know, it was a step up on paper, and that's what it looked like. It looked like, you know, he was pushed, he was challenged, namely in the third and fourth round. I think that's probably one of the rounds where Maurice Hooker caught Virgil Ortiz, but Ortiz being young, strong, determined, he kept plowing forward and he got the job done. And, you know, he started dropping Maurice Hooker and the pressure became too much. But definitely not a bad outing for Hooker, who that was his first fight at 147, and he broke a long stint of inactivity. So, you know, he definitely considering, I think, I can't say it hurt Virgil Ortiz because I think he'll learn from that particular fight, but his aura was chipped away at a little bit. You know, people, the way he looked versus Mauricio Herrera and guys like Samuel Vargas, you know, he looked very formidable. And then he steps up against a guy who hadn't really fought at welterweight. We don't know what his power was at welterweight. And it was Virgil Ortiz's toughest fight to date. But now, you know, Terence Crawford was in the crowd. He was asked about Virgil Ortiz. I'll make a separate video about that. Crawford believes that the fans and the media who were asking him in the crowd, they saying, what would happen in the fight with you and Virgil Ortiz? He said, you know what would happen. I don't know why you guys are asking the questions, but I'll make a separate video about it. I've already made one about Terence Crawford and Virgil Ortiz. And listen, make the fight. Everyone has an opinion, but at the end of the day, it's about seeing is believing, and let's see it. That's my motto. It's been my motto, LSI, on the channel for years. So let's see it. But I'll separate that and get to the topic here. But I personally think Crawford is too much for Virgil Ortiz Jr. as well. But I'll talk about that more. Now, another piece of damning news for boxing hopefuls and boxing fans is Crawford pretty much ex-nayed the notion that he would be fighting Errol Spence Jr. He said that fight will never happen. Not going to happen. Never. It's over. It's a wrap. I'm just paraphrasing. You guys can find the interview floating on the internet where he said it. Multiple reporters had cameras in his face and captured it. And I want to kind of give you my thoughts on the whole process. Make sure you guys smash the like button and also hit the bell icon to stay up to date when I drop new content, the latest and greatest in boxing. So Crawford, he sounds, in my opinion, he sounds dejected, and Ego Stradamus strikes again. And this is one of those times where I wish I was wrong, but I'm not. And I predicted this moment would come. Terence Crawford is a terrific fighter. He's very headstrong. Terence Crawford, he has a hell of a competitive streak and a bit, in my opinion, a bit of stubbornness. Now, that's all fine and dandy for Terence Crawford, the fighter. However, I don't know how well that has served Terence Crawford, the businessman. And as a businessman, I feel myself and other people feel there are moves that Terence Crawford could have made at different points, which is now neither here nor there, to put himself into better positions, you know. And unfortunately, he aligned himself with Top Rank. They provided the fights that they could provide for him. Crawford, you know, he hasn't necessarily been one to be all up in the media, you know, and doing interviews and kind of like that celebrity of it. He just does his talking in the ring. So between Top Rank and Team Crawford and Crawford's attitude and behavior and then the fights that they've aligned for him, I feel like this is a dejected Terence Crawford. He sounds disenchanted. I think when he started gunning for Errol Spence and Pacquiao, to not get either one, that's discouraging. And Pacquiao, I want to, it's up to my promoter, and I will not fight but Crawford. I don't think Pacquiao is fighting. Sorry, I just like doing that. I don't think that Pacquiao will be fighting Crawford next. That's just my personal opinion. So you look at Crawford's options and they're just whittling away. Errol Spence, he told Crawford for a minute, and I agree with it. And funny enough, Ego Stradamus said his piece, and it looks like it's coming true. Crawford doesn't have the business leverage in this situation. People got mad at what I had to say. They got mad at what Errol Spence had to say. But at the end of the day, it looks like that was the reality of the situation. Now you have Crawford doing public interviews saying the fight's done, it's over. Whether he means it or not, I mean, only internally will he be able to answer that question. But I feel like he's discouraged. He's been trying to get a Pacquiao fight. He's been trying to get big fights, trying to get the Errol Spence fight, but he hasn't business-wise put himself in that position. And then people look at his resume, especially at welterweight, like people respect that he was undefeated and is undefeated, and he was undisputed at 140. But you're in a different league. You're in a different territory when you move up. Your past accomplishments, that's like Andre Ward had to go in and beat the number one guy, Sergey Kovalev. You know, he was either I would say he was number one, but, you know, it was between him and Adonis Stevenson. And Andre Ward, all of his great accomplishments at 168, beating Chad Dawson, winning the Super Six and Carl Froch victories and Abram and Kessler, none of that really mattered when he moved up to 175. Like, yes, it's great experience to get you to that spot in your career, but it's a new division. You got to establish yourself as the same player, and that's not easy to do. You look at even like guys like Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia was the man at 140. However, the same type of unbeatable success that he had at 140, he took his losses at 147. So guys couldn't beat Danny at 140. He was the man at that time at 140, but that didn't phase or affect guys from beating him, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Sean Porter at 147. You see what I'm saying? So these are completely different. Every time you move up and you're in a different division, it's like you hit the reset button. Now, again, you're not resetting your experience. You keep whatever experience you had coming into it, but you're at basically, it's like starting a new job, if you will. You know what I'm saying? You don't know the computer systems. You don't know all your coworkers. You don't know what managers are cool and stuff like that. You're in a brand new division. So, you know, it is what it is. And you look at it, Terence Crawford has been at welterweight for probably 3 years now, and he has not had one big name. And you look at the other big names at welterweight who are fan favorites, and they fought everybody. You know, Sean Porter, you could say whatever you want, call him a football player and all that, but at the end of the day, Sean Porter has fought everybody that he could fight. Broner, Adrian Granados, Andre Berto, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence Jr., Sebastian Formella, Danny Garcia. He fought everybody. Keith Thurman, he fought Pacquiao. Pacquiao's a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, right? Keith Thurman fought against the Sean Porters, right? And so on and so forth. Errol Spence has fought Danny Garcia, even when people said, hey, take a tune-up, chill out, you know, take it easy. And he didn't do that. And he fought Kell Brook. So basically, realistically, I'm at mid-weight with mid-chocolate brownie. You know, Errol Spence did these things, and he did it when it mattered. Yes, Terence Crawford beat Kell Brook faster, but he also beat a washed, in most people's opinion, a Kell Brook that hadn't really done anything since the Errol Spence fight. So, you know, there's that. So now, fast forward to the future, Terence Crawford is now publicly saying and trying to distance himself from the Errol Spence talks, and he's even stated that he might move up to 154. So he just seems totally dejected from the idea, and it sounds like, whether he admits it or not, Ego Stradamus was right, and he's starting to come to grips. I think this is his way of coming to grips with the fact of the stuff everybody was telling you, or people like myself were telling you, is the actual fact. You don't hold the cards in the situation. Crawford was saying he wants 60-40 his way. He wants 50-50 his way. But based on the moves you and Top Rank made and the limited talent pool that you had direct access to, I didn't see how that was ever going to happen. I said it, I meant it, I stated it on my channel, unapologetically, and now you see that. Now Crawford is putting himself in a big predicament, because you look at the videos where he's saying that he'll never fight Errol Spence, and you've seen people leave comments and thumbs down, question his resume and stuff like that. So it's like Crawford is a terrific fighter. It's just, and he's an ambidextrous fighter, but he's not ambidextrous when it comes to the business. And this is ultimately what's hurting him. Now Errol Spence is likely to fight Dennis Ugas, who is a respected welterweight. Top Rank had the welterweight. They had Ugas at a point in time, but Top Rank didn't have no faith in Ugas. And as soon as he started losing, they discarded him and didn't really move him. And then Al Heyman came up and scooped him. And Ugas has redefined and rebuilt his career, and now he's rejuvenating. And more importantly, recently, based on Pacquiao taking a whole year off and not fighting actively and defending his title, now they leveled up your Dennis Ugas to the WBA super champion and removed Manny Pacquiao. So even if Crawford were to fight Pacquiao, which I doubt, because I've already talked about it, but I don't see Pacquiao picking Crawford. But even if he does, it will no longer be a unification. So yeah, you're fighting a Hall of Famer, but you're not unifying the division like you did at 140. And that takes away one of the incentives for it. And again, Ugas is a brilliant fighter, arguably beat Sean Porter, and Errol Spence is likely to get him. So I think slowly but surely, Terence Crawford is coming to the realization that his moves and the moves he's made haven't been adequate enough, and the statements that he put out haven't been adequate enough to hold true to the statements and the attitude that he previously showed in regards to, I don't need Errol Spence, Errol needs me. When you say stuff like that, then people could put your foot to the fire, And some people get mad that I'm talking about this and say, oh, just who cares, the best versus the best. But nowhere in the reality of the business world do these things exist. Like, you think a millionaire is going to stop making $1 million because there's somebody out there with a different attitude who doesn't manage their money? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, in the business world, you got to know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cutthroat market, especially boxing. There's no governing body, and you got to navigate accordingly. So yeah, in a perfect world, it should be the best versus the best. But we know in boxing, historically, that's not what we always get. We don't always get the best versus the best. There's politics, there's landscapes of boxing. So you have to learn how to move in a room full of vultures, like Jay-Z said. And Terence Crawford, as a business, as a brand, I don't think he's all the way done that. And he's put out statements, I don't need Errol Spence. Give me 50-50. Give me the lion's share, 60-40. And like I predicted, Ego Stradamus, he's nowhere near fulfilling those statements. That's why you got to be cautious what you put out there. Now he's doing interviews saying the fight is dead, it's over. So if he wants to talk about it, it's going to look like he's a hypocrite. So I'm just taking it for what it is. Old media can stop bringing up Crawford and Errol Spence. I'm over it. If they're not going to get it done and they can't get it done, at the end of the day, I think Crawford is now starting to see that if it does happen, it's going to be on PBC, Al Heyman, and Errol Spence's terms. And that's just what it is. I mean, how could it not? If Errol Spence beats Ugas, a respected guy, gets a third belt, what could Crawford say or do? Stay with Top Rank with one belt that he got in his first fight with Jeff Horn? You know what I mean? And that's another thing, is he's been in the division for 3 years, and his first fight was a title fight. So he's been carrying the title the whole time. He's had a title the whole time. You know what I mean? These are all just title defenses, and they're not against the more challenging people that most people feel. The Ugases, the Keith Thurmans, the Pacquiaos, the Errol Spence, Sean Porters, Danny Garcia, and those guys are all the way fighting each other. You know what I mean? So I told you from the beginning, and I stuck to my guns. No matter how good of a fighter Crawford is, his moves aren't matching, and I don't see how he's going to win this battle of leverage when he already didn't have leverage. You don't have the people in your playground directly linked to your network, ESPN and Bob Arum, to get these things done. So you saying I don't need Errol Spence and I done more than him in his little career, we'll see, because he keeps putting up points. You know, he keeps putting up dunks and layups and assists and rebounds. And Crawford, we'll see what his next move is. He'll likely have to fight somebody like Sean Porter. I think that's a great fight for Crawford. But if we're being real, how does that, even if Crawford beats Sean Porter brutally, how does that give him leverage over Errol Spence, who could try for a third title? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, Errol Spence already beat Sean Porter and dropped him in 2019. You know, I think that was the year 2019. Yeah, September 2019. I was at the fight. So it's like, who is he gonna fight? The rumors are like Sean Porter, Jose Cito Lopez, stuff like that. It's like, how are you gonna get leverage no matter what the outcome is? You're just not in that position. That's my honest opinion. So now it seems like Crawford is just sick of talking about it, and he don't even want to talk about it, because I think he's starting to realize that he's getting backlash. The fans are coming for him, and ultimately he doesn't have the leverage. He said he don't need Errol Spence, so we'll see. Errol Spence is not really talking about Crawford because he knows his future's bright and he can still get the Ugas fight, maybe a Pacquiao fight, Sean Porter rematches, Keith Thurman if he decides to, you know, let bygones be bygones and give Keith Thurman. Meanwhile, Crawford's been at welterweight for 3 years and hasn't had these same sturdy names. These are the facts. Let me know what you guys think. Also use TUBEBUDDY, link in the description. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.